everyone. I'm Councilwoman Monica Rodriguez. Welcome to the Public Safety Committee meeting for Wednesday, November 13th. I am joined today by my colleagues, Councilmember John Lee, Councilmember Rue, and our Vice Chair, Mr. O'Farrell. Thank you for joining us. And we do have a couple of items on, a couple of speakers that we have. Corey Schmidt for multiple comment cards, and I don't see him. And general public comment, Corey Schmidt, not here. So we go ahead and take Corey off. I've got E, the letter E. Don't see anyone responding to E. And then we have Dr. Mello. I don't see a Dr. Mello responding, so that will close out general public comment and multiple item speaker cards. Colleagues, I'd like to recommend that we take items 1 through 8 on consent. If there's no objection, that'll be the order. And that'll bring us to item number 9.
Number 9 is a Department of Animal Services report relative to strategies to increase cooperation and partnership between the city and the equestrian community on the evacuation of horses and other large animals during emergencies. This item was also referred to the Personnel and Animal Welfare Committee.
Thank you. So colleagues, just by way of an introduction, as our presenters from the variety of departments come to the table, I just wanted to just kind of provide a brief overview as to the purpose of our conversation today. During a fire or any other natural disaster, which we have become more and more familiar with, and increasingly so in my district, it is the responsibility of our public safety, first responders, emergency management, animal services, all the activations with emergency management department that get triggered during very wide-scale natural disasters in the city. Through discovering some of the circumstances as a result of having 3 fires in my district over the course of 2 years, and having some unique topography and needs for evacuations as it relates to the large equestrian community which exists throughout my district, we are having a conversation today about what those protocols are, revolving around the incident command, notifying emergency, triggering EMD, and thus facilitating our evacuations for large animal and equine areas. I want to first preface our conversation today by saying that when I reflect on the progress that we've made, even just from that very first La Tuna fire, which occurred 50 days into my tenure on the City Council, to subsequently the Creek fire and all the work that has been done between all of the variety of departments, LAPD, our first responders, LAPD, LA City Fire, Animal Services, Recreation and Parks, everybody that has been involved in helping to refine our process. These are muscles that we don't always exercise on a daily basis, but as a result of this growing and more regular emergency situations, we find ourselves in a position to better enhance and refine our protocols with each and every incident. And so that's what we are centered around here today. It was after the Creek fire where we lost 30 horses as a result of that quick-moving, horrific wind-driven event of that particular fire and those conditions, that we again wanted to review our protocols and ascertain what more could be done. It was through this most recent Saddle Ridge fire when I was at Incident Command joining Chief Richmond and others, where we had a fire that erupted in a high concentration equine area that again we wanted to further review our protocols and assure that we are doing everything possible for the safety and security of people, property, but of course trying to help evacuate these areas where in some cases these large, these 1,000-pound animals could perhaps impede our efforts for safe evacuations. So with that, colleagues, I'd like to invite our representatives from LA City Fire, PD, and Animal Services to introduce themselves.
Thank you and good afternoon. Deputy Chief Trevor Richmond, Los Angeles Fire Department, Operations Valley Bureau Command.
Karen Nipscher, Animal Services, Director of Field and Shelter Operations.
Commander Michael Rimkunis, Assistant Director of Operations.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. So, unfortunately, I've become increasingly more familiar with the protocols, so I want to just, for the purposes of my colleagues, just, well, you can correct me if I make any missteps on what the protocols are for emergency evacuation efforts. But, for example, in the Saddle Ridge fire, fire department gets a call for a fire. Incident command takes place at Fire Station 91's in the adjacent area.
So I can help you there, Council Member. And let me, before I start, thank you for your leadership on this issue. I know this is something I've personally experienced with you, and you're very passionate about it. So on behalf of the Los Angeles Fire Department, thank you for your leadership. So the Los Angeles Fire Department in a wind-driven fire, one of the first things we need to establish is situation awareness, where the fire is at. And then shortly thereafter, we try to determine where the fire is going and the rate of spread. And once we make that quick determination, we will begin to start the evacuation discussion, and that includes large animals as well as people. And in the Suburbans of all LAFD apparatus and also in our adjacent divisions in the Los Angeles Police Department, we have what we call an evacuation football. Basically, it's a suitcase that includes a bunch of maps and an evacuation checklist like I have here. And the person that's assigned evacuation goes ahead and starts working down this checklist. And so, like I said, once we have established a rate of spread and where we think the fire is going to be at a given time, we start to determine our evacuation areas and we start to move resources into those areas. So there is a critical time period that we are especially vulnerable, and that's that within that 30 minutes of the head of the fire. Within 30 minutes of the head of the fire, evacuation is just not likely or reasonable to do. So what we'll often do is we dispatch resources into an area that's within 30 minutes of the fire front, and we dispatch them in rescue mode. And their direction is to protect lives, including human lives as well as large animals, and protect structures. Essentially, we put the fire department as a barrier between the fire and the people that we're trying to protect. And that's all we can do. And beyond that 30 minutes is where we involve the Los Angeles Police Department, and we have a more orderly method of evacuating people, determining evacuation orders versus evacuation warnings. What's particular about the large animals, because the large animals are often a little bit harder to evacuate than our human evacuation, they require a little bit more time. So we typically look 2 hours down from the fire front at those places that will be impacted by the fire and start the evacuation process. So as we work down our check sheet, right in the very beginning, we're directed to contact the EMD duty officer as well as the Animal Services representative, Rec and Parks, a DOT representative, and our DAFN liaison, which is a Disabled Access and Functional Needs Coordinator, and they're asked to respond to the command post. And we start to build our evacuation plan. And as you know, it includes shelters and transportation, and it's a really involved process, but if it's done correctly, like we've seen in the past and during the Getty fire and the Saddle Ridge fire, it can be very, very successful. And as you mentioned earlier, we are getting better. Every incident that we go to, we learn something new, and we refine our process, and we get better. Our evacuation football is updated every year, and from lessons learned from the previous year. And this is one of those areas we continue to learn. So that's essentially how the fire department manages the evacuation.
And just to be clear, when you talk about the maps that you have, do those maps have overlays of where the higher concentration of K overlay zones based on the planning department, horse registrations exist, and or information derived on where perhaps a higher concentration of horse keeping exists?
We currently do not have that information on those maps. That'd be something that we'd be looking to include. Our evacuation maps are primarily concerned with streets and evacuation routes and trying to get people out of the neighborhoods.
Perfect. Yeah, no, information is power, and if you know where those sensitive areas are, then it'll help manage evacuation efforts much more efficiently. When it comes to, again, just to recap, so your notification upon determining, okay, we know for equine areas we need to give them a roughly 2-hour range. So in that particular circumstance, again, having that information of knowing where the higher concentration of equine area is will help you ascertain whether or not those areas get triggered. I want to actually now go to Animal Services, and I know we've got a series of protocols in managing the receipt of animals at activations for like at Hanson Dam, for example, and what those protocols are. And I want to thank Animal Services for night and day from how we manage La Tuna to Creek, and even going into Saddle Ridge with those animal evacuations, the receipt, the registration, making sure that we are managing those animals. Obviously, prized family members, and it's kind. I liken it to. I tell everybody. I said, it's like LA Unified. If just because it's an emergency, LA Unified isn't going to release your kid to just anybody. You have to be on the emergency card. These animals are members of people's families. They're treasured, and so we take a great deal of responsibility in receipt of those animals. And I want to thank Animal Services for helping to quickly reinvigorate how we manage that process in these emergency situations. But in terms of one of the more recent kind of reintroductions, if you will, of the volunteer emergency program, can you please cover what the status of that effort is, and how many individuals are certified to participate in supporting emergency evacuations with that program?
Absolutely. We did reestablish the volunteer emergency team. We have 37 volunteers that are trained just to do large animal evacuations, but there are 3 different steps. They can either be on the first level, which is just doing paperwork. They can be on the second level, which would be feeding and cleaning and paperwork, or they're on the third level, which means that they can drive a trailer team. So we have all 3 levels, and we do have, and they're our best asset.
So how many individuals are certified to assist with the trailers?
15.
15. And how many have generally been made available to be on call during these emergency situations?
All of them are on call. We have had some injuries because some of them are up there in age, so we had a few injuries here and there. But we can call each of them, and they tell us whether they're available or not. But our biggest asset lately has been the Los Angeles Police Department and their mounted unit, because they can get us in and out of areas quicker than we can, and being partnered with them and having them at the incident command and just right by our side and going through these calls and saying who's going to get what has just worked tremendously.
How many trailers do we have available to us in these emergency situations with our mounted unit?
5 trailers.
5 trailers?
And we've also dedicated a response car to Animal Services, so we could lead Animal Services in for evacs of large animals as well.
Okay. Generally, where are they located? How quickly do we get them dispatched to the various areas?
So, for instance, on the Saddle Ridge fire, it took 2.5 hours. It was an early morning fire, and by the time the notification went from the DOC to Counterterrorism and Special Operations Bureau, where Metropolitan Division is under, it was about 2.5 hours for mounted, the officers, supervisors, etc., to be on scene and available for assisting with large animal evacuation.
Okay, so that's a time lapse there. And then, so for the emergency volunteers, generally, how quickly are we able to get them dispatched in comparison?
They seem to know about the fire before we do, so
Right.
they tend to call us. So usually it's pretty quick. I think we had them there within an hour, and our officers are on duty 24/7. So our first trailer team was out to the fire within the hour.
Yeah. And hence the conversation. Chief, you and I know that we have individuals that came straight to the command post. They were, again, not certified, not part of the official volunteer effort. And it's concerning to me, again, because I understand the sensitive nature with these individuals, their family members, we'll just call them, four-legged family members, that, they get spooked by the fire. They take off. A lot of the, especially I think after the creek fire and the wind conditions there, people just started letting their animals just run because when the animals are spooked, they can't get them into the trailers. They have a hard time corralling them and getting them to cooperate. And, these animals you've got 1,000-pound animals running in the streets and making it fairly difficult for our first responders to do what they need to do. So I think, again, underscoring the need for us to try and do all that we can to get ahead of this in terms of establishing expanding our protocols and processes to help address this. How often does Animal Services conduct classes to encourage additional people to participate in this volunteer program?
We advertise it all the time. It's on our website. It's on all of our social media. What we do is we wait till we have a class of 20, and then we will hold a class. They were just talking that they do have a few names. We didn't reach the 20, but the team decided to start a class in January anyways.
I'm sorry, last January was the last class?
This
coming January we'll have a class?
They will have a class.
Okay. Terrific. I will go ahead and, I don't know if my colleagues had, okay, Mr. O'Farrell.
Thank you, and thanks for your leadership on this and elevating the issue and then bringing alignment on this very, very important matter. Just for clarification purposes, large animals, you mean primarily horses, but there are other large animals, right? And
I've got a giraffe in my district.
You have a giraffe.
I've got a giraffe in my district.
You might just take the cake with a giraffe. So that's interesting. You probably need the help of the LA Zoo if you have a giraffe.
He has his own protocols in place because he also has monkeys and other animals of exotics.
Okay.
So he does have a very good protocol for himself. And he
got him out really quickly.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, so that got me to thinking, 20 years ago, for a period of 3 years, I volunteered at the Wildlife Way Station. Now that closed, correct? Are all those animals in a different place, or are some of them still there?
Most of them are moved.
Most of them are moved, okay, because you've got some really large animals involved there. Do they still have some exotics there?
I don't think they have. I think they have more of the primates left than anything else, but those will be moved soon.
And okay, those will be moved soon. And of course, there's probably a protocol in place for the remaining primates who are at the now closed Wildlife Way Station.
Yes.
And that's probably not the only area where there are exotic animals that are in this large animal category as well, right? Do you have Shambhala there involved as well?
We have Shambhala. They are in our district, and she also has her own protocols, and she has a very good evacuation plan.
All right.
It's part of their permitting process, and most of them adhere to it. There's a select few that we really have to push.
All right. Well, I think it's terrific to keep the focus on this because it is the new reality, and it's really speaks well of us to be very, very humane in our approach to making sure that we can save and give comfort to these animals that are really traumatized by this and they're taken care of. So, well done. Thank you.
Mr. Rue.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for bringing this very important issue into light. And I just also wanted to thank you for your leadership on this because in my district as well, we have a very proud equestrian community. And I do want to point out the Los Angeles Equestrian Center as being one of those shelter sites, and for them stepping up, because it's very, very crucial that our departments are working together to get evacuation information out to everyone, and that no person or animal is left in the lurch when a fire breaks out. So thank you so very much, and I really want to thank the Los Angeles Equestrian Center for stepping up.
Thank you, Mr. Rue. Mr. Lee, did you?
Sure. You said they're given 2 hours. We look at equestrian areas, and we usually give them a little longer, Chief.
I'm sorry?
We give equestrian areas. You said in the beginning of your presentation, you said equestrian areas we identify and we actually give them notice ahead of time if we think a fire is possibly getting it.
Correct. Once we've liaisoned with animal services and they're at the command post, we start to identify those areas where there are horses, and we start to look 2 hours down the road where that fire is going, and we start to make those notifications. But like Karen's already stated, a lot of times they're already in the process. They know there's a fire in the area, and they're making movement to get their horses out. We have had tremendous success, and the Getty Fire is a great example. We were able to get in there really quick and get the horses out of some of those tight streets. It wasn't easy to do, so we're getting better.
Yeah, up in Browns Canyon, we have large stables that have 45 horses, and we have one owner they call. They activate. We C12 activates our response team. We have our trailers go up. So what we found is that they're not certified, so they have to turn around. So you have a class going in January, and you have available spaces. Where do they contact?
I can give you my email. They can contact me, or they can contact Lieutenant Julian. He's in charge of the VERT team.
Great, thank you.
Terrific, thank you. So going back to just animal services and some of the other efforts that are being promoted. So I think I'm going to guess that our preferred methodology is to use our our certified kind of volunteers to assist us in those evacuations. I'm wondering what your opinion is on this app EvacuPet that a lot of people are now promoting, and what the implications are of that and some of those independent evacuation efforts, and how that might either assist or impede the work that we're doing here.
We've had conversations with them, and I don't feel like it's going to impede us. It's more of people making agreements with them ahead of time so that they have to be evacuated. They know that they can take their animal to one of their sites. It's greatly appreciated if a person gets out before we have to come in there and take them out. And we promote those efforts. We're constantly saying, please be prepared, please self-evacuate. We understand that the larger equine, it's harder because not everybody has a horse trailer, but we would like to be that last resort.
Got it.
So if they can make agreements with any of these other private entities and they're comfortable with that, we would like that.
So with EvacuPet, then because I'm not really familiar with it, I just know it's kind of like these independent dispatched efforts. They engage in whatever private agreements to help in evacuation efforts?
Yes, and they also step up during the evacuation, but we would not ask them to assist us because, as we know, we're certified to go in and be ahead of the fire, and we can't let somebody that we don't know whether their trailer's licensed, whether they're licensed to drive, things like that. But I know that they've been making agreements with people ahead of time, and I know that for the small animals, they did go and get people's animals ahead of the fire, but that was between a private entity and the homeowner.
And now, do they generally through that app, do they then bring those animals to, say, like Hanson Dam or whatever evacuation area, or do they have private places to house those animals?
They have agreements with veterinarians and private places to take the animals.
Got it. And now the county also has animal services and support. What cooperative relationships or what resources do they have available to also assist with these evacuation efforts?
We have an MOU with them, but it usually seems to be that they're as busy as we are. So we just run the city and they take care of the county, but we do assist each other. I know at this last fire they asked for some available stalls at Hanson Dam, and we gave them to them. We said, you're more than welcome to come. We're not full. So we do have those agreements in place.
Has Animal Services created a Ready, Set, Go checklist in the same way that the fire department has, but specific to the equine? I know we created one on our own for my district, but do you have something that available to those?
When we go out and do our microchipping clinics, we talk to everybody about what they should have, and those are the laminated information on your horse, who your veterinarian is, what kind of feed they have, because that's the easiest thing when we do our evacuations, to grab off of your stall, and it goes right with your horse. So there are different things that we always talk about and we try and promote. But it's up to the individual if they want to do it or not.
There's a
Microchipping, of course.
checklist, there's a checklist for
Yes.
them to follow to
Yes.
have for emergency preparedness?
Yes.
Okay. Colleagues, were there any additional questions? No? Okay. Well, I think, again, this is an ongoing conversation. This is a work in progress where we're going to continue to refine these efforts. And, hopefully we get to a point where, we won't have the circumstances of some of these large-scale emergencies, although, I don't know, it just feels like my district is just it's a regular circumstance, which is why I continue to focus on how we refine these evacuation protocols. Because I know just even for my office, we were triaging with some of the early calls that we were getting. We have individuals that show up at the command post. And I think for the purposes of facilitating greater ease and providing comfort for folks in these areas, that we are going to be thoughtful about the necessary deployments that we have to have. But I think the mapping is important to inform our fire department when we are dealing with these protocols, that they know, again, the topography, the dynamics, and, the physical conditions of what you're grappling with. But what you don't know is where these higher concentrations of large animal and equine areas are concentrated, and what might trigger you, what might necessitate you triggering these notifications far earlier than what has been exercised previously. So I'd like to actually recommend that the Department of Animal Services work in collaboration with the Department of Planning, Sanitation, and the Bureau of Engineering to create a heat map to reflect the high concentration of equine keeping zones, utilizing the data from horse licenses, the equine keeping zones, and brown bins. I think the concentration of all that information will help better inform the fire department where we have, because we know not everyone has registered their horse. So I think both the conditions of the planning zones and the brown bins will help also supplement and inform where we have higher concentrations of large animal and equine, so that we can better prepare LAFD with some of these early notifications when necessary. And I'd also further like to request that LAFD, EMD, Recreation and Parks, Animal Services, and LAPD report back to this committee with standard operating procedure for emergency equine evacuations. And so what I'm looking for is, again, given that 2-hour window, what is going to be the amendment to the protocols with EMD? Because I think right now what we're seeing is that LAFD triggers it, everyone gets notified at the same time, but we know that we need a 2-hour advance head start for these large-scale areas. So refining that protocol so that we can better address these more sensitive areas. And also that the report should include the roles of each department, activation procedures, timelines, notification process, response protocols, and coordination with the volunteer emergency response teams. And we'll get that. But thank you. Second that. And then if the map I'd like to see back to us in 30 days. We're in high fire season. I think the sooner we can get that map back with all that should be fairly easy to collect from all the different departments. We can get that map back in 30 days. Without objection, that'll be the order.
Thank you.
Okay. Colleagues, like to reconsider item number 3. Okay. Without objection, we are back on to item number 3. And
Item number 3 is a city attorney report and draft ordinances relative to amending the Los Angeles Municipal Code section 103.203 to revise the valet parking requirements. As of this afternoon, there was an additional revised draft ordinance submitted to the Office of the Clerk dated November 12th.
okay, so then we're going to go ahead and receive and file the ordinance dated October 30th, 2019, and approve the revised ordinance dated November 12th, 2019. Without objection, that'll be the order. And Madam Clerk, I believe we have cleared the desk.
That clears the desk.
Thank you very much. We are adjourned.